In almost every Hindu temple across the world, the rules are strictly defined. The deity resides deep within the garbhagriha, the inner sanctum. They wait in silence, and the devotees must make the journey to see them. But once a year in the coastal city of Puri, that ancient rule is broken. Lord Jagannath, the presiding deity, leaves his throne. He steps out of the temple and travels through the streets to be among millions of people. And when he appears, you immediately notice another anomaly. Traditional deities are sculpted to aesthetic perfection. Jagannath, however, is carved out of wood with large, unblinking eyes and distinctly unfinished limbs, no perfectly formed hands or feet. To understand why a major deity looks so physically imperfect, we have to go back thousands of years to the end of the Dwapar Yuga. According to scriptures, Lord Krishna's earthly life came to an end in a dense forest when a hunter named Jara mistook his foot for a deer and fired a fatal arrow. When the Pandavas performed Krishna's final rites, the flames consumed his physical body, but one part remained entirely untouched by the fire, his heart. Known as the Brahma Dravya, it glowed with a supernatural light, completely unburnt. Following a divine command, this indestructible heart was cast into the sea. It drifted through the ocean for centuries, carrying the literal, living essence of the divine into a new era, waiting for the right moment to be found. Generations later, that divine essence washed ashore in Puri as a glowing, fragrant log of wood called the Daru Brahma. A devoted ruler named King Indradamna recovered it, determined to carve it into a permanent physical idol. A mysterious elderly sculptor arrived at the palace to take on the task. Many believed he was Vishwakarma, the architect of the gods. He agreed to carve the wood, but on one strict condition. He had to be locked inside his workshop for 21 days, entirely isolated from the outside world. For weeks, the sounds of chisels and hammers echoed from the room. Then, total silence. Fearing the old man had fallen ill or starved, an anxious king ordered the doors to be forced open early. Inside, the sculptor had vanished without a trace. King Indradyumna was devastated. Without the craftsmen to finish the work, the three wooden idols, Jagannath, his brother Balabhadra, and sister Subhadra, were left incomplete, lacking fully formed hands and feet. But his despair was interrupted by a divine revelation. The message was simple. Human logic was trying to restrict the infinite. The universe is too vast to ever be accurately captured in a perfectly proportioned, limited human body. The unfinished wood was intentional. It serves as a profound physical metaphor. By appearing incomplete, the deity mirrors the human condition, establishing that the divine doesn't demand perfection. It embraces humanity complete with all its natural flaws. That ancient, indestructible essence, the Brahma Padartha, still resides inside the wooden idol today. Every 12 to 19 years, the wooden body is replaced in a highly secretive transfer ritual. During this event, the entire city of Puri undergoes a total blackout, as the energy radiating from the core is said to be dangerously intense. To the British East India Company, the temple was an administrative nightmare. They saw a sovereign power center that commanded more loyalty than the crown, fueled by what they considered irrational myths. Looking to expose the cult, the British sent a spy, Lieutenant Sterling, to infiltrate the temple. He breached the inner sanctum and sent back reports that unsettled the administration. He claimed the wooden idol didn't feel like a statue, but felt like it was breathing. This lack of control over the temple's living influence led to a policy of suppression. In 1805, citing the risks of uncontrollable mass gatherings and religious hysteria, British collector Charles Hunter issued a decree to permanently ban the annual Rath Yatra. The decree backfired immediately. Across Odisha, millions of unarmed civilians, priests, and villagers abandoned their homes and flooded the streets. Refusing to let the colonial government stop their chariots, they began building the vehicles themselves with their bare hands. Faced with a totally unyielding civilian force, the world's most powerful empire was forced to surrender and repeal the ban. The unstoppable momentum of this event left such a psychological mark on the British that they coined a new word for their dictionary to describe a massive, crushing force: juggernaut. Today, preparing for that unstoppable force requires an intense logistical sprint. Starting on the festival of Akshaya Tritiya, craftsmen have exactly 58 days to build 3 brand-new, massive chariots from scratch. This presents a staggering engineering paradox. The main chariot stands over 45 feet tall and weighs roughly 200 tons. Yet it is built entirely by hand, without a single 3D model, printed blueprint, or iron nail. The head carpenters rely entirely on knowledge passed down orally through generations. Instead of tape measures or rulers, they use traditional human metrics, like the span of a hand or the width of a finger, to achieve perfect structural symmetry. To see how they secure this immense weight without metal fasteners, we have to look at their wood interlocking technique. Heavy timber beams are carved with precise grooves and joints, then slotted together and locked tightly into place using only wooden pegs. Instead of rigid iron bolts that could snap under extreme pressure, this traditional joinery is flexible. When 1,000,000 devotees pull the rope simultaneously, the resulting kinetic shockwaves are absorbed and dispersed cleanly through the wooden joints, allowing the massive chassis to survive the tension. These temporary, hand-built structures endure the combined pull of millions. The wood bends and shifts without snapping, holding firm under stresses that would shatter rigid metal bolts, a physical endurance that matches the centuries-old tradition they carry. Before those massive wheels can turn, the journey begins with a deeply humbling ritual known as Chera Pahanra. The Gajapati king of Puri, historically the highest authority in the land, steps in front of the chariots with a golden broom, sweeping the road bare. This act strips away all worldly hierarchy. By sweeping the dirt, the king publicly demonstrates that in the presence of the divine, a monarch and a commoner are entirely equal. Wealth, status, and power dissolve instantly at the wheels of the chariot. Then the massive ropes are tossed to the crowd. Millions of individuals, doctors, farmers, foreigners, and locals, step forward, reaching out to grab the exact same coarse fibers. Pulling that rope requires an intense psychological shift. You are no longer an individual with a specific societal identity. You merge into a singular collective force, working together to pull the chariot forward. And that is the true purpose of the Rath Yatra. Because the main temple has strict entry laws, restricting many from ever stepping inside, the deity steps out. He travels the dusty roads to ensure that the sick, the marginalized, and the uninitiated are never denied his grace. It's a message of absolute inclusion that has resonated far beyond the shores of India. Since the late 1960s, this festival has crossed oceans, taking over major avenues in London, New York, and Sydney, uniting vastly different cultures under a single rhythm. Jagannath is the Lord of the universe, who steps down from his pedestal and walks into the streets to meet humanity where they stand. This tradition ensures that even the most flawed, the most marginalized, and the uninitiated are included in the divine embrace. If you want to uncover the engineering and history behind more of the world's most fascinating traditions, hit subscribe.